Yeah, hi Sheena. Good morning. Thanks for taking time for this first mock interview of yourself, where we'll try to assess what sort of preparation level you have, and we'll try to give you feedback based on that. So before we jump into the interview and discussion, can you brief us a little bit about yourself? What sort of technologies and experience you bring, and what are your day-to-day activities in your current role?
Definitely. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here. Myself, Sheena, and I reside in Delhi. So I have like 5.5 years of experience as a, Windows administrator, as an analyst in HCL and TCS. And I have been pacing myself for the past 3 years to be an aspiring DevOps engineer. I have read a lot of blogs. I watch continuously YouTube videos, and I did a lot of Udemy courses. And I worked with a lot of mentors, DevOps mentors, if you are aware of them. Like Shubham Londe is there, Sagar Utekar is there, and Abhishek Birmala. Yeah, I follow them very closely. And then I did a lot of certifications also, which I'm very proud of. These are like AZ 900 and like AZ 104. And then I went for DevOps, that is AZ 400.
Mhm.
And then I recently completed CK. So I have like a lot of interest in Kubernetes. Now, okay, so I started my IT journey in the year 2006, 2010 when I joined HCL as a Windows administrator. Over there, I was actually working on on-premise servers, and those were basically Windows servers which were hosting Microsoft Exchange. Like, I know it's an outdated technology now, but
Mhm.
I hope you're aware of it. Like, Microsoft Exchange is used for messaging servers. So my job role over that time was to maintain those servers, look after them, and then look after client requests like Jira tickets regarding whether they're like working with their Outlook anywhere and their Outlook issues, and working with the servers. Yeah. And then we worked on BlackBerry servers, Lynx servers, and so on. And then moved on to domain controllers, basically, responsible for taking care of their replication and everything, synchronous replication. And then I also learned over there about the concepts of Active Directory. And I was solely managing Active Directory on my own in my project. Then after that, I joined TCS, and over there also my job role was almost similar. I worked on on-premise servers, yeah, and then those were again Link and BlackBerry, and then again managing Microsoft Exchange. This time, updated versions. And and that time, around that time, like virtualization was, catching up like really fast. Yeah, so we did a little bit, hands-on on VMware also.
Okay.
Then after that, I got a career break. I got married and I shifted with my husband to US. And over there, due to some work visa issues and all, I was not able to work. But I paced myself, as I just mentioned earlier, that I paced myself to be an aspiring DevOps engineer. I kept on studying. Yeah, did something, did read some blogs, did some certifications, kept on doing Udemy courses, created some projects, were in continuous touch with my mentors and everything.
Okay.
So as of now, okay. You can
Okay,
ask,
awesome.
go ahead.
One quick like feedback on this part is it is very long. It takes
Okay.
good and there is lack of flow in this structure. I'm not sure if you're doing it for the mock right now, but in you wouldn't talk about the mentors and the YouTubers and all. Not many people would be aware of them. Especially it's people who are very entry level or people who are just trying to get into a job. Somebody who is hiring is a hiring manager. He may not be in the market for himself. So he may not be knowing about them. So bringing them doesn't add value, especially you have a lot of certifications and projects to talk about. They are real value. So you don't
But
need,
I, being a fresher, I don't bring any, experience on the table.
that's
So I
that's
thought
the other
that that
feedback.
would provide
That
some weightage.
that's the other feedback. Uh,
Hmm.
you can't having 5 6 years of experience already into doesn't matter which area you cannot go as a or it's hard to accept somebody who starts claiming that he's a fresher. So I know it may work out in US and it may work out in other countries, but specifically in India they would
Hmm.
want somebody who is bringing some experience on the table. They would want
Okay.
them to be some sort of leader or some sort of managing people or team. They they are usually reluctant to hire somebody who has experience and applying for a fresher opportunity in a different role or something. So what I would suggest is, because you mentioned virtualization, something you tried in your job. Uh, how long was the gap for you?
Like it's 8 years,
Eight
to
years
be
is
precise.
it's
Yeah.
massive. Uh,
Yeah.
Somehow you have to relate your current projects with your past or the DevOps and cloud work that you are doing to your previous experience, and then build a good story. Luckily, you were in, say, server administrator or some sort of virtualization
Windows administrator.
with
Hmm.
Windows admin. So uh, you have to bring some sort of DevOps and cloud concepts in that. So you have to relate those two things and not apply as an absolute fresher. Don't sell yourself as a fresher is what I would suggest. First, you have to get a confidence yourself. You have to say that what I was doing was actually the precursor to DevOps and cloud. So if you would have migrated at the same point in time, forget about the gap. If you what you would have done at the same point in time, you should follow that sort of thing. So if, for example, you are a system admin or something, you are managing, say, 100 Windows servers or building those images, installing some packages, uh, doing some production support of that, how you would do that in DevOps world, then try selling it that you were managing 1,000 servers or 100 servers for a specific customer, and then hope that somebody who is doing a similar sort of thing in cloud would consider your past experience as relevant and will take you as a slightly experienced professional. That's
I
how it.
got it.
If you are competing as a fresher and you say, I haven't done any pipeline, I haven't done anything, I'm a fresher, then I would actually want a real fresher on the job where the real expectations in terms of salary and in terms of the hands-on exposure and stuff would be much higher than yours. Might be higher than,
I
right?
get it. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle, right? Yeah.
You are stuck in
Tough
the middle,
situation.
but good thing is that with some effort, now take notes from this discussion or use chat GPT or think what you would have done 8 years back, how your past role would have translated or how you would have upgraded yourself into cloud world more, how you would have
Mhm.
translated your career into cloud DevOps and cloud at that time, how you can relate your past experience to the latest DevOps and cloud space. In past, you would have managed some servers, how you would do that now. You would have created VMware environment, how you would do that now. Some sort of
Now that
networking or backups
now
and
that you have mentioned, I could recall that we used to patch our Windows servers like every
absolutely.
weekend, and
You
for that we automated scripts for that.
absolutely. That's
First
what
of yeah,
you would do that
firstly
in
we were doing
Ansible.
it manually, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then we created very good scripts which could patch all our servers all over the world like during the weekends. So yeah,
absolutely.
thank
So
you.
now
Yeah.
now you can change this language and say that
Mhm.
we managed hundreds or thousands of servers across the world using Ansible or something that was relevant that point in time. You can't say Ansible latest version or something. You go backward in the history somehow, find out the right version of Ansible that you would have probably used, and that's how you go.
So I'm talking about year 2010. Around that time, like cloud was like, just a word in cloud only. And there was nothing like, I think before Jenkins, there was some, tool that was introduced. So at that time, that tool was there. I don't know who's the parent of Jenkins. Yeah,
Jenkins
that's
itself
just.
is it
So I
was
don't have
pretty new. Yeah. So
yeah,
go back to the max. If you say 8 years gap, then I would think that uh 2017 is when you left, 2017, 18, right?
2015.
2015. That's a 10 years gap.
10-year gap. Okay, sorry, my bad. 10-year gap.
Okay, 2015, but still a bit of Ansible would still be in use. So you can build some stories around Jenkins. You can build some stories around Ansible.
Okay, I thought like do I need to build stories? Like,
S-
can't be
I,
like
I
honest.
I would suggest, I am on camera, I'm suggesting this. Yes, you should
Okay,
do that for your own good. Um, One, it's not like you will make just random stories. You will make effort to justify
of
that.
course. Yeah,
You will
yeah.
think about those projects and you will relate it to, you probably would have done manual, or you would have probably not followed all the DevOps and cloud practices that are used in 2025, but you would relate your past experience, think how you could have done it better in that job, and relate it to the modern world, modern tools, and then build a nice story, because that's how you can justify 2 to 3 years of, you will still say that I have 5 or 7 years of total experience. First 2 3 years I was doing some manual role, and then last 3 years I worked as a sort of, go back in history. You will say a system admin managing thousands of servers and using, we were doing manual patches of those servers, and then we moved to Ansible Jenkins solution. So that's where I played a role of automating all those servers. And then you will actually do it on few servers. You will recall all those scenarios and try to do it better. So that's how you will build a nice story where you go through that journey a little bit. You don't have to traverse everything 3 years of experience, but do it like quickly in 2 3 weeks, and then cook a nice looking story. Then you are not competing with freshers. Then um, your better communication than the fresher will be valued. Better exposure, because you have managed servers in production or real environment, that should get value, right? That it's not just for you to see the value. It's for the employer to see that you are bringing more to the table than a fresher.
Sir, I have been asked quite a number of times that how much industry experience you have in DevOps. So
Yes.
when it comes to industry experience, then they consider me as a fresher.
No, that's what
So
I'm saying.
that's
You
why,
first you have to
Mhm.
just explain it to yourself, get the confidence that yes, I have been on career break. Again, for career break, there could be other strategies. Because you have been overseas, uh, it may work out in your favor. Because in India, typically, the employers look for a lot of background checks and salary slips and other way of verifying the employment. But if I'm not sure if it'll work out, but some sort of freelancing or working with some employer in US or that sort of thing, you can justify a little bit of gap there as well. Because there it's not that you know that level of verifications is some, they don't follow that much. They go with the interview, they go with the people available on site. They able to start on a project is what they look for. So you can look at those options as well.
definitely, yeah, that's a wonderful,
But
wonderful
at the
like
same
piece
time,
of advice.
yeah. But
Yeah,
at the same time, going as fresher and saying that you are an entry level, you are fresher in this world, and you don't have any uh, uh, sort of real industry experience, would go against you. You are
okay,
thinking that probably in your mind you are thinking that if I say this upfront, I may be valued better, and because of my trust uh, or anything,
honesty.
honesty. But that I think that would be taken against you, because you being in that age, and with such a career gap, it will go against you if you say I don't have industry experience. Now, since you are talking, I recall um, a scenario where I had referred at my
Mm-hmm.
previous organization in Infosys. I referred a candidate, and she had a similar sort of situation. and they rejected with the reason that the candidate is overage. So candidate,
Really?
yeah, the candidate is like 35 or something, and up you are applying as a at a 1 year experience or 2 year experience level role. So
Mm-hmm.
that was it. It wasn't overage in terms of like 50, 60 years. It was 33 or 34 years of experience over age, but applying for a very entry level or 1 year sort of experience role. So
Sir, I
again,
believe in it's never too late to start, like whatever you have, interest in. Sometimes
absolutely.
people, yeah,
Yes,
exactly, yeah. That's a
yes,
very
but
wrong way
that's
to
that's
judge.
where the Indian mindset and slight a bit of uh, availability of the pool, right? So they would, if they are hiring, say 20, I'm not sure, I'm just giving you some examples. If they are hiring,
Mm-hmm.
say 20, say five DevOps engineer for a team, all
Mm-hmm.
entry level, and
Mm-hmm.
four of them are absolutely entry level freshers, and you being one of them, it would be a very odd team. You would be
Got
the
it.
odd one out, right? Because of your age and experience. And so first you may not go through all the rounds, and there may be some bottleneck somewhere in this entire process itself. The
Mm-hmm.
other could be that after joining, they would struggle you fitting in into a similar sort of such role. So I would say now, since you are certified, you have a good communication, you have experience, age, make take it to your advantage rather than disadvantage,
I
because
get it.
you
Yeah.
have done so many things. And look at options of, say, doing some freelancing stuff or justifying through those sort of those processes, justifying that you are working overseas for a company or through a freelancing structure, uh, and then learning a bit more than fresher, justifying more than fresher has probably more chances of you succeeding than um, going absolutely fresher level and competing with a lot of people who are entry level freshers. And uh,
Okay. So this actually literally like clears me. Like I was actually don't know like where to apply. Like people
because
consider me as a
yeah,
fresher because no
probably
industry
you
experience.
yourself don't have, maybe I'm just guessing that you don't have that much confidence right now, so you are um, underselling or downplaying it a little bit. But you
My
have to go strong. You have to go strong. You have to,
my ultimate aim is to enter the domain of DevOps
yes,
because there are a lot of times that I get rejected because of my career gap.
yes, yes. That is a problem. That's something hard to justify, and that cannot be justified with by applying for entry level roles.
Okay.
That problem doesn't get solved there. That you make an entry level, you apply to only the fresher jobs and then get into the market that way. You should bring your past experience, uh, justify your US travel and your involvement in the industry during that time. Everybody does
Mm-hmm.
that. Everybody, we know people who are working as manual testers, or in our programs, we meet and work with so many people who are working as manual testers, and then they justify their projects or their extra activities that they are doing as their real DevOps and cloud projects. So
Okay.
it obviously you have to work on that. You have to make effort to justify that. It's not that we are not trying to fool any employer or somebody who is hiring us, or that's not the objective. The idea is
Mm-hmm.
that we try to upskill ourselves to the level that they want, and then meet those expectations or go beyond those expectations. Sometimes it's very hard for even for employers to judge somebody in 1 hour. So uh, we are just trying to prove that yes, we can add a lot more value to you than you trying to assess in that 1 hour. And that's how we have take it to our advantage a little bit, and uh, work hard for
You
that.
know that now that we are in this discussion, I would just want to ask that what if they hire me and they ask me the very next day to create, a production pipeline or something? So I'll be like, scared to hell,
No,
scared to death.
no,
Yeah.
even the employers are not like, they understand. It can happen. but it may not happen. The employers also want their production environment to be stable, and there would be a reasonable good uh, uh, sort of trainings and their internal process and everything. So that time, say it takes 3 weeks, 4 weeks of time. Again, you will have to probably, if you get into a good job, doing all this process, following the entire discussion that we are doing, then obviously you will spend a little bit extra in those 3 weeks, 4 weeks of knowledge transfer, or
Yes.
so that you understand all of that again quickly and then able to contribute. I would be surprised if they say day one that you do all of this. That's not how usually it works. They would also want it to be stable.
I get it. Okay. So as per skills are concerned, I am like upskilled myself in Azure and Azure DevOps, AWS little bit, and then Docker, Kubernetes, Linux, shell scripting, and a
Mhm,
little bit of Ansible. Yeah.
mhm. Uh, and can you explain little bit about the how do you deploy to a Kubernetes cluster and ensuring that there are three different environments, say dev, QA, and production environment? How do you ensure that?
Okay. So I have worked with Azure like AKS service. I have created a pipeline, and in the end, it gets deployed using AKS service, where our final applications get deployed over the Kubernetes.
Mhm.
So, like if you're talking about this production development and these three kind of environments that I have created during my pipeline, pipeline building and continuous deployment and continuous integration process. Yeah. In Kubernetes, my applications get deployed over my pods.
But how do you ensure the segregation of environments?
Mm,
So
okay.
I
In
have a
in per
pipeline.
in yeah.
So how do you
Okay.
ensure that the pipeline deploys to dev, QA, prod? What sort of practices do you follow for that?
Okay. During the build phase only, we build phase only, we create a testing environment. Wait, sorry. Uh, Not able to recall that, but talking about Kubernetes, we can differentiate like making a different namespaces, like making one namespace as production, another as deployment, another one is testing, and having our pods deployed over that, making our application deployed over those different namespaces, and then they can be used accordingly.
And
Um,
what is the advantage or disadvantage of this approach?
See, advantage of this approach would be that we would have a stable, environment working as a production in the production namespace,
Mhm.
like it's going on, and we can do manual testing or anything, updates or get new patches or new upgrades, any new feature to be added to our application that can be done in the testing, yeah, testing or the development namespaces or
Okay.
to those pods. Yeah.
And what is the disadvantage of this approach?
So disadvantage would be like it would be more costly. Like Kubernetes itself is quite complex, and you know, um, deploying into like three kind of like yeah, it will be a complex infrastructure. You know,
Okay.
working to different
So
namespaces
in
and
in
shifting
reality,
to different.
how it would be is that that namespace based segregation is a good approach if you are doing proof of concept, or that tells me that the exposure you have is more of proof of concept level. You haven't deployed. Obviously, you haven't, but because I know, but you are exposing yourself by giving slightly simpler example. This is where you need to go slightly stronger. So first, when you responded that your initial response was very short, I had to ask the question again. So you have to understand that when I'm asking a question, uh, which are the main keywords that I want to get response for. So my question was around how do you deploy it to different dev, QA, and prod environments, right? So the focus is on how do you do environment segregation.
Hmm.
Initially, when you responded, You actually didn't mention at all dev QA and prod. You mentioned during build phase, I will ensure that that gets deployed to different. So uh, find out what I want to hear or what I want to understand in that question. The second one was that you gave a very like basic example, that namespace based segregation. Typically, it would be a complete cluster segregation itself. The disadvantage of having a namespace is that my same dev, QA, and prod environment is using the same cluster, right? It's
Okay.
only the namespaces are different. Now, if
But
I
sir,
have,
there's one advantage here that we can have resource quota limit set on the namespaces. So we can
how
have,
would
a
you
set.
how would
Yeah.
you upgrade the version of Kubernetes in this case?
Okay.
You can't do that
Yes.
because you do it on your dev, your prod will also be upgraded at the same time.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would have a
Should
separate
be cluster segregation. Yeah.
cluster segregation rather than you can do it. Somebody may say that we follow this, but then they lose something. So you have to bring those both sides of the coin.
Got it.
Right? Uh, Let me look at your resume and see. Oh, so just explain me, like if you are given a free hand, uh, what sort of pipeline you have to create a pipeline for deploying or building and deploying an application in production. So how would you follow that? What sort of systems you would integrate? What sort of things you would do
Mm-hmm.
in a CI/CD process in an ideal way?
Okay, so the projects that I have created over there, I have like shared my code on the Git, and whenever there is a code changes, it triggers my pipeline. So I have created usually like as very basic pipelines where my code is getting tested and my code is I created some Docker images, like the code is compiled into an image, and then that image is get stored into a any kind of registry, kind of be like Docker Hub or ACR, and then it's get deployed again to the Kubernetes or whichever, like Azure environment or AWS EC2 environments. So yeah, that's the basic like tools that I have used. And for testing, like during the pipelines, I have used like Trivy to scan my images, Docker images,
Mhm.
and a little bit of SonarQube also for static code analysis. Yeah.
What is the, can you explain what was the outcome of the Trivy scan that you achieved?
So Trivy is basically to scan, Docker images like vulnerabilities or any dependencies or something like that. So when we use Trivy, it gives us a detailed, view of the errors and the warnings, and depending on the priority, like being critical,
Mhm.
scaling it to like high priority, critical priority, and all that.
Can you give
And
one example, any vulnerability or anything you found through Trivy?
not any critical one, but yeah, there were some like warnings, like some libraries are outdated, or you
Mhm.
need to use a smaller I think base image or updated base image. Yeah.
Okay. These are some good, some suggestions, but you didn't find any critical.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about the Sonar Cube? What sort of report does Sonar provides?
So SonarQube is basically used as a static code analysis. It again, it helps us in detecting any threads, again any code vulnerabilities and etc.
Mhm.
So basically, the kind of output that we get from SonarQube is like, do we have any code that is being outdated, or is there any thing missing, any link missing, and so on.
Okay. Now again, I don't know why you are just slightly low on confidence is what I feel. Um, and because you are trying to undersell yourself, you are trying to give short answers that now this was I don't know how much you follow cricket, but it was a full toss for you. It was
Okay,
it
you were
was a
expecting me
free
to
yeah, it
yeah
was a free
brag
ground.
while
You
go.
you have so many opportunities in a CI/CD pipeline. You have security scan you mentioned, sonar you mentioned, secret management, or how do you manage secrets and all. Um, you mentioned that so how you it's Trivy and Sonar are not just for providing feedback, right? It's to control the flow of your pipelines also. So how you can set up quality gates, that if there are critical issues, what do you do in an ideal way? Because I asked you in what you have free hand, you explain me what you would do. So if there are issues, you would break the pipeline, break the build, or whatever you follow in that process. You can set up quality gates. You can perform some sort of unit tests in that process. You can perform some sort of functional test if you want to. So
Can I mention that I can also like include some approvals also,
you
approvals from my stakeholders? No,
yes, you
I
can
can.
bring in that. You can bring in
Mm,
those things that you will bring in some sort of approval process for
yeah.
deploying to production, maybe not for dev and QA, but to prod.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of things you
So
can.
नॉलेज तो है बट मैं पता नहीं क्यों आउटपुट नहीं दे पा रही हूँ. Yeah.
I would think that you once you start selling yourself as an experienced professional, then you will have more responsibilities to talk about it as well. Because you think in your mind you are thinking that you are an entry level. You are not having that much of responsibility. You think that a short answer is good enough, right?
Having an 8 years of gap is quite intimidating.
It is, yes. I know it's very hard, but at the same time, this is how you would build. So you have spent a few years certifying, and so you are on a good path. It's not a 1 or 2 months or a sort of impulsive decision that you want to do something and then you are not able to do or something. You have spent good time. You have followed the projects, built those projects, but now is the time to like really get into it when you are applying for jobs. That's where you have to be sharp and you have to um, not miss out on easy questions. So you just have to be prepared and enthusiastic that yes, I can crack it. If I have a free hand, I would you do this, I would do that, I would bring in these tools, I will bring in these technologies, I'll make sure that this is happening. And that kind of response.
Okay. So ask me questions what you ask to freshers. Yeah.
Actually, to be frank, freshers, a lot of people are coming back that they are not getting interview calls and they are struggling. So again, it could be in your advantage that you are not applying for those jobs at all. You can apply, but apply for the slightly senior roles as well.
Hmm. Okay.
Because freshers
Yes.
are anyway not getting those many calls, and you know that it would be they would be managing the production environment, they would be managing the pipelines that have to be smoother and secure, and um, so
They have to be very critical. Yeah.
it's these are critical roles.
Yeah.
So you would be lucky if somebody as a fresher gets an interview call, then converts it. For example, some companies have a senior architect or senior DevOps engineer, and he needs some helping hands. So then, yes, there would be fresher roles, but again, competition will be much higher. So many people applying. We also post sometimes for hiring for my channel, and we get like 100 resumes in less than 30 minutes. So it's a competitive role, and because it's production, um, it's a serious business.
Sir, I've seen your videos. You are interviewing so many candidates and you are like on a roll. One question after another, one question after another. Yeah.
Uh,
So I'm expecting a little bit of like that.
okay, okay, let's do that way. I'm just thinking because you have built your resume. Okay, give me some best practices, or how your employer or your team lead tells you that the build process is taking 30 minutes. We want to reduce it
Mhm.
to say smaller time. It's very hard for developers to wait 30 minutes. How would you reduce the build time of your pipeline?
Okay. Um, So you're not asking about Docker or Kubernetes or Linux or something.
This is a
Stuck
Docker.
at the build.
This is a Docker related stuff. How would
Okay.
you reduce the build process of
Mhm.
your pipeline?
Sure. So if a build pipeline is taking this much time, so I would check and I will get to see that we use a less size, smaller base image,
Mhm,
and then um, we'll build in layers like to
mhm,
create get a small image out of it. Layering technology using Docker,
mhm,
and then I would also see that if we are using the latest version of the base image,
mhm,
yeah, with all the with all the updates and patches so that our code doesn't get outdated out of that. And then mm, I would also make sure that all the requirements are there, all the necessary libraries and dependencies are there. And yeah, sir, that's it.
Okay. What is feature flag in app deployments?
No, sir, no idea.
Any feature toggle or anything you have heard?
I've heard about it, but I'm not able to recall it right now.
Okay. Okay. One basic question that usually get asked is about how would you troubleshoot? You find out that an application is not working. So how would you? So it's a web application, not
Hmm.
working in production. So how would you go and troubleshoot it? What areas you would look at first?
Okay. So it's a web application and it's not working in production.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I will look into the architecture, like what is the flow of the process is going on, like what are the underlying infrastructure that it is using. Is it having any bottleneck effect, or is there are some resources? Yeah, first of all, I'll go and check the monitoring tools like Prometheus and Grafana. If they are there, I would check their reports and see like what are the errors or what is the root cause behind why my production is not working, my website is not working. Now, after checking logs and troubleshooting, I'll actually log in to the server. If I have like server access, I'll log into it, and then I'll just look into the code of whatever application, try to access it myself and see what is the error that we are getting, and then troubleshoot it. Yeah, as per the error.
Okay, cool. You look at the logs,
Yeah.
get inputs from the logs, what could be the issue, and then you look at the infrastructure where the connectivity or to a database or any other APIs is failing, and then you would okay, cool. How about the public subnets and private subnet question? So,
Yeah, sure.
are you aware what is a public
Yes,
subnet?
sir.
And can
Yes,
you
sir. I'm
explain?
aware.
Can you explain a bit more about this?
Sure, sir. So a subnet is basically, breaking off of a bigger internet into small, small parts, and we can divide it into public and private. So private subnet are those subnets which are like individual to the companies. This doesn't have any public access. Whereas public subnets are those subnets which are, accessible towards the internet side. Outside people, they can come and they can, log in and they can access the public subnets. Whereas
Mhm.
private subnets are quite like, secure, and they are not allowed, no connections are allowed from the outside world.
Awesome. Good. So now if I'm hosting a website on
Mhm.
for my company, which is to be a public facing, and I'm
Mhm.
hosting it on say a VM in Azure, should it be public subnet or should it be private subnet?
Okay. Since it's a website and it needs to be accessed using an internet, and so it needs to be a public, we need to have a public subnet. Yes.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And will that not expose my VM to everyone?
Of course. Yes, sir. Yes, it will. So in that scenario, what we can do is we can create a private subnet in which we can keep our those servers which data we cannot afford to lose, or we cannot afford to like mostly our database
Mhm,
servers, we can
mhm,
kept it behind the private subnet,
mhm,
and in the public subnet we can expose our the website.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, wait, I'm not able to explain it properly. So, okay, if we are using Azure or AWS, we can have a public IP associated whenever
Mm-hmm.
we create a EC2
Mm-hmm.
instance.
Mm-hmm.
So we can use that public IP for our application access.
Okay, awesome. And how do you secure that? Is that acceptable scenario? How do you secure your instance, your VM, which is in public subnet?
Okay, of course, there has to be a way to secure it because it's not a good practice to expose it like to the outside world. Um, there is a word which I'm not able to recall. Okay, how would I approach it? Is like, come on, I just read it yesterday. Um, okay, there are things. Okay, yeah. Um, okay, so you tell me. नहीं कर पा रही मैं.
Okay, so that what sort of certifications have you done on Azure or AWS?
Sir, Azure, I have done 900, 104, and 400.
Okay,
Azure
104.
Admin and Azure DevOps. Yeah,
Okay.
and Azure Basics.
Hmm. And can I assume that
So
you
are you
did?
talking about load balancing?
Yes. Yeah.
Network load, yes. Application load balancing and network load balancing.
So yes, you need to bring the load balancing concepts here and move your instances to private subnet.
The load balancing is basically to synchronize or to, formally, transport your data to
Mhm.
all the servers so that there is no load on one server.
Right. But
Yeah.
it's also the other point about the load balancer is that your load balancer can be in that public subnet where your customers are hitting, and then it distributes traffic where your VM is in your private subnet.
Yes, sir. It
So
makes
you are
sense.
not exposing your VM. Now it was very 101. It was very basic concept. You would learn public private somehow because it's asked in every discussion, but you don't go next level where how it's not necessary that a public facing VM or public facing website or hosting VM has to be in public subnet also, right? So
नहीं सर, आई नो मोर देन पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट. इट्स जस्ट कि वो नेटवर्क लोड बैलेंसिंग वो भी पढ़ रखा था, बस आई वाज नॉट एबल टू कनेक्ट द डॉट्स.
yes, that's the tricky thing, right? Because if understand what the interviewer is trying to assess.
एंड दिस इज सच अ बेसिक क्वेश्चन. हम
That's a
सारा
bit.
दिन इस पे काम करते हैं. यही तो हमारा काम है कि
Absolutely.
एक्सपोज किसको करना है और किसको नहीं करना है. कम ऑन.
Correct. So that tells me that you are slightly low on confidence and slightly need to brush up. Maybe it's your first mock. Practice a little bit more. Let's come back. Let's meet again, uh, and then get into this more of this frequently.
I actually have an interview scheduled on Tuesday. That is why I was in such a hurry to get
Oh,
myself
that's fine.
mocked
That's fine.
because I
That's
know my level. मुझे पता है.
right.
Yeah.
You can still go ahead with that. Don't feel low confidence. If you share me the job description, that's why I was asking you. Then I can ask you more specific questions in for that specific role. But if you tell me that that's a fresher entry level, then let's go with that. Show them that you have really done it. Don't talk about YouTubers and don't talk about mentors. Talk about your
Mhm.
projects that you have done. Talk about your certifications, especially the certifications. Highlight the ones that you have done with a lot of heart in, with a lot of uh, attachment and with your effort. Sometimes I have seen specifically, especially around the Azure certification, there are a lot of dumps and there are a lot of materials available. So if you have done that, don't highlight that too much, but highlight the ones where you are very closely attached, where you can justify easily. So I talk about those that in this time you have got certified, um, and talk about your projects. You have built three-tier application. You have built a three-tier where you have load balancer in public subnet, VMs, databases in private subnet, uh, and maybe you can talk about now. You can talk about some of your projects. What is the most complex DevOps and cloud project you have done?
Okay, so that was deploying a three-tier application
Mm-hmm.
on Kubernetes. Yeah.
Okay.
And the challenging part was to, make all those three, my pods communicate in a network,
Mm-hmm.
since one of them was getting breaking and there was no connection with the database. Yeah. At that part, I really struggled really hard.
Okay. Did you look at how did you deploy those pods onto the cluster?
Okay. My writing my manifest files.
Okay.
Yeah. We created manifest files for that.
How
Oh,
do you
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
apply those files?
Are you talking about the command, the kubectl command about it? Yeah. So it's
Use
kubectl.
TCL to deploy your
Yeah.
manifest files to
Yes.
cluster.
Yes,
Are
sir.
there other approaches in the industry? Are you aware of?
Yes. Yes. So apart from manifest files, there are also imperative ways to create your pods. Yeah.
Do you
Instead of
know?
writing, code.
So
Yeah. Go ahead,
where
sir.
would you run this kubectl from? From some Jenkins or from?
So from Kubernetes dashboard. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know that dashboards are not usually accessible in the corporate world.
Oh, okay. No, I was not aware of
Dashboards
it.
are not the go-to
No,
way.
no, sir. Okay. No, no. In AWS or in Azure, we create an EC2 instance or a virtual machine, and over there we install, Kubernetes, Ubuntu or whatever the operating system is. We install Docker, we install, Kubernetes over there, and then from there we operate over it.
Okay. Okay. Again, not a very standard way. You would rather do it from the least. This is probably the in the overall uh, hierarchy of managing a cluster. Connecting a cluster from EC2 instance is probably the lowest, least secure, I would say, or least preferred approach. You would, when
Mhm.
you deploy, you probably second level would be then you have GitLab or Azure DevOps or Jenkins managing your cluster uh, in a pipeline way at least, because you know the disadvantage, right? On EC2 instance, you go and delete a namespace. No one would know who did it, when it was done, until they go all check logs and that sort of thing. You can make mistake connecting your
Yes.
production cluster from an EC2. You would do that in a POC environment, and probably that's what you did, but that's not the right way. You would
Okay.
probably deploy it to next level is maybe use a CI/CD approach of deploying using kubectl. Then the next level in maturity is that you use GitOps approach, where you there are further advantages of that, and you explore that approach as well.
So, sir, this GitOps is really catching up like really fast. Everywhere I see this, people are, certifying or getting, studying about GitOps. So, should I also go for this?
You should, yes, because you are certified on Kubernetes side. It
Yeah.
wouldn't take you ages to understand this. It's probably a for a POC kind of thing. It's just a weekend of effort. That's all it is. Understand why companies are using it, understand what are the disadvantage of the two approaches that we discussed, connecting an EC2 instance and doing it, connecting Jenkins to my cluster, what are the disadvantage of this approach and why GitOps is so popular. Then you do a POC on GitOps and then you bring it to your resume. Absolutely.
And I have not mentioned any, coding language. Like usually people mention, Python or something. So is shell scripting is enough?
Shell scripting is not enough because everybody else will also say that I can write shell scripting. So you are not adding any value, especially you being system admin. You have to go Ansible there because you cannot justify your past experience without a good Ansible story. And you specifically, if I had more time, maybe in future when we do another session, we can deep dive. You should target a little bit more on the cloud side um, than application build and DevOps side of it. So target a little bit more where roles require system admin, server management, cloud infra, that sort of thing. Not
Okay.
you understand, right? Cloud ops, those kind of roles, uh, rather than pure DevOps role where you are building Java application, .NET application, or Docker images and all. So You can still apply, but you would apply more on uh, cloud and infrastructure, again, justifying to your past experience.
Yeah, sounds great. Yes, makes sense actually.
Yeah. I think
So, I can also apply for SRE roles, right?
absolutely, yes. SRE is slightly modern way of cloud ops or modern way of operations in cloud. So yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Are we done? Are we done
I
already?
think for now we are done. I don't want to, you know, a bit of things, but probably you haven't gone into the real environments and you haven't done these kind of interview arrangements. So there's a good chance that even if you know a few things, you wouldn't be able to answer. So brush up on those areas, watch some of the
Mhm.
previous videos, um, and do a ask like, yes, I have done this POC. Use ChatGPT, how it would be done in the real industry, how a Kubernetes cluster of multiple environments is managed in the industry. It will give you 5 options. Then you build your POC or your project accordingly. So you pick one which where you think, yes, this does all the things that people are looking for. Let me either do a small POC of this, or when I'm explaining to in the interview, then I explain this approach rather than a plain vanilla kind of approach, right? You add more masala, you add more ingredients to your story.
Got
So
it, sir. Yeah.
whatever projects and POCs you have done, put it in ChatGPT in a short description and say, this is what I have done, how this would be done in a real industry situation, what good practices they will follow. Uh, and then that's how you should cook your stories. There are many ways, but yeah, keep practicing.
Okay. So are we done, sir?
Yep, for now, let me pause the recording and good luck.
Please, please, please go ahead, please. Yeah. Thank you. It's the recording that actually made me nervous.